Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my Ascension Messages. My name is Bobbie Richardson, and I will be your guide for today. So today we are going to channel through my team. My team consists of Arcturians, Pleiadians. I can channel through to Source Energy or Oneness and Gaia elementals. So yeah, I can also tap into the Akashic record and gather information from that as well. So let's see how this all works. I don't know if you guys can hear that noise, but sorry about that. The house is creaking a bit. Someone turned on a water faucet. Okay, let's get into this. So first of all, I have some messages that's come through from my team throughout the week, and I bring them up. I write them up on my phone as I go along, because some of them are so profound that I really need to share them with you guys. So let's start with that, and then we will get into the topic. Hey Sky, good to see you. Okay, so we've got knowledge is something we figure out from our outer world that helps us keep a certain story in our life going. Wisdom comes from your inner knowing. It is an absolute, as it comes from your feelings, and all that is, if any importance is your, and all that is important. Oh gosh, I can't even read my own writing here. As it comes from your feelings, and all that is, if any importance is your feelings. Okay, I get it. Okay, so I have to remember when they gave that to me, what sort of vibration was coming through with it. And there was also a feeling of, or understanding, that I brought up in a reading yesterday that applies to this. So knowledge is one thing, wisdom is another. Knowledge is held by the logical brain, wisdom is held by the intuitive brain, or intuitive mind, or the soul's connection. It is an absolute. Knowledge is a copy and paste environmental thing, where our outside world will reflect back to us something that we already feel is going to be the truth. And yeah, and then also they were saying that knowledge cannot understand wisdom because it doesn't understand the feelings, and that's why we were taught to only go by five senses. So the five senses are the sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. So they're the five senses, right? But then there's also feeling. So why don't we incorporate feeling when it comes to the masculine side? Because if we did, then we would be awaken that interaction with communicating with others through feeling, which means we will become telepathic. So there is not the tree of knowledge, and then there's the tree of wisdom, and that would be in retrospect the left and the right hemisphere as well. So it all keeps coming back to the inner self and how we actually navigate our own realities. But when we come from different perspectives, especially when we align with our right hemisphere, which is the wisdom and the intuitive side, then we are bringing in something that we forgot all those eons ago, and it's a completely different perspective of life. And it's an absolute, it is a knowing, and but it doesn't have the value of the little, it doesn't have the same value of all of the bits and pieces, like the names and the, how a logical mind gets caught up on this word means this. And even though many people from different sides of the world would have the same sound or same word for meanings of completely different things. But, it's like our knowledge wants us to agree with it. And so we try to look for all these little details, but we're missing the point through the feeling. And so when someone channels from a higher perspective, it is the energy that they bring through as well. And the words are secondary. Interesting what they're saying to me at the moment. Okay, so then we have another topic. When the mind is not in balance, when it enters another dimension, all that it lacks will be reflected back in that reality. So our very lack of power is returned to us as the same power through enemies attacking us. This is the very same amount of power our mind attacks ourselves with on a daily basis, and we are then denied that power to be within us when it is us. Yeah, so that's in relation to that jumping into 5D or they're going back to 3D or whatever it is. It really has more to do with the value of how you're thinking about yourself, and as you're moving through your day-to-day life, you could step into the power of yourself and feeling really magnificent and feeling like you're really good, and that means that your day starts rolling smoother because your outside reality is reflecting back that you already know of true value within yourself. Or you could be waking up in the morning with an issue and a problem, and you feel really lack of power, feel vulnerable and everything, and you step up and go outside, and then all of a sudden you're going to have all of those people coming at you, and you're like, why? Woe is me, and feeling the victim again. It's because you didn't stand in or you didn't accept the power within yourself to begin with at the beginning of the day or the beginning of the moment or whatever you want to call it. So 5D has got more to do with how we feel about ourselves rather than trying to look outside of ourselves for an indication of 5D. You can find patterns and all sorts everywhere. And you can say that is 5D, but it's really to do with how we feel within ourselves in that moment and how magnificent we are. Are we aligned with source energy? Do we recognize that we are that source energy going on a journey as well? So, yeah. They also said, as we get closer to oneness, we understand the entanglement of all as oneness. And then even in our outer world, we might even see, and it's really interesting when this message came through, I was viewing a link to some sort of scientific realization that plants and animals have great understanding, have great feeling, have neuron paths. That plants actually, with the veins that are going through the petals, are actual neuron paths within them. They have a certain perspective of themselves and of life. And that is like a coming together of our understanding of ourselves with our outer world coming together as one. So the closer that we do get to self-love, the closer we get to the entanglement of everything as one. Even in the science world, it could be, that you're not spiritual, but you might actually find that your level of awareness moves up because you go into quantum physics or something like that, and you start to see things from a scientific point of view, that we are one. But it all starts to come back to the fact that we are all one in the end. Very interesting. Okay, what else have we got here? This one's more to do with relationships and your relationship with your partner or other people in your life that you love. We all want to make our loved ones happy because secretly we would love to be the ones that bring them into that happiness. Therefore, if you bring yourself into your own happiness, you are fulfilling your loved one's wishes. How cool is that? I love that. It's just the way it's written, so simple. And I love how they brought that through. The future is not set in stone, but as that is the adventure. Okay. Yeah. The future is not set in stone, but as that is the adventure of the unknown coming towards you. Sorry. My way of writing things down with my dyslexia, I kind of get twisted a little bit. I should have gone over these to begin with, this is how I write it down. Sorry, the future is not set in stone, but as it is the adventure of, because it is the adventure of an unknown coming towards you. However, how you feel about yourself and your world is a direct reflection. And you are always carving the path of your future, feeling stressed about it, and you will meet stress. Feel you trust it, and you'll be okay, even better than okay. And you will meet yourself as that frame of mind. Yeah, so it's more to do with, like we were saying before, the mind and how it reflects back and how we're carving our own path, direct response to how we're feeling about ourselves. So the quicker that you can catch your mind feeling low, and it's not to say that we're not going to feel low. Definitely we have these resistance moments that push us and pull us and through into more self-love, because if we were already as the awareness of source energy complete right there, then we would realize that we didn't need to be in this body to begin with to have the lesson, but it is the actual adventure that we're going on that creates the lesson, that creates the adventure. So we still need the resistance, and we still have these little mind nuances of self-doubt, and that keeps us humble and in the story. So there's two things here. There's one that we're awakening up to more advancement of ourselves and self-love, but the other side of it is don't be too hard on yourself, because if we didn't have the resistance within our own mind, we wouldn't have the adventure. Well, yeah. And also they brought up, hey, everybody. Hey, Sherry, Dave, Carly, Lena. They also brought up about supporting ourselves as well. And I actually recorded this one while I was driving, so I had to quickly listen to it before this reading, but I'll bring it back up again. They were talking about giving to others and feeling good about ourselves. Now, if we can give all we like, but if we're not feeling really supported within ourselves and knowing, we could give the shirt off our back, right? To the last thing that we ever own, we could give it to somebody else. But if that person is not standing in a place within themselves of knowing that they will always have what they need, and that the universe will give to them something that they need in the next moment when they need it, if they're not self-supported, then they will be in lack of. It doesn't matter if you give. It doesn't matter how much, I'm such a good person, I gave all of that away. If you're then in lack of afterwards, and then you'll go into a victim mode of, but why isn't the universe giving to me? Where's my lot, and all of that sort of stuff. That's why it's really important to come back into self-support, whether you're giving or not. And then you choose in that moment whether to give or not. And you choose self, because self needs to be supported. And then you give freely from that. You can choose to just keep your baseline at a certain perspective that you can feel comfortable living this world out, living this dream life out, and then share the rest of the overflow. Or you can live your life as giving to others constantly as you go, knowing that it will always be returned to you. And that in itself is shifting our world into a more compassionate, flowing energy, rather than coming from a lack of self and feeling like you need to give to everybody else, otherwise you don't feel good, but you're already in a lack of self. So then nothing's going to come to you. Then you're going to feel really bad about yourself and confirm to yourself that you're not worthy, because you already weren't worthy before you gave to others. And if you bring that back and turn that around and you say that, you decide that you're going to keep everything yourself, then in hoarding everything yourself and feeling in lack of will mean that you will have a tower moment where all of that is taken away anyway, because you're already feeling in lack of. Or even in hoarding, other people see you as greedy, and then they won't want to be around you, and then they won't help you. So there's it's still, whether you're hoarding or whether you're giving a lot or too much, doesn't make any difference. We've got to bring ourselves back to self-support, who we are, love who we are, say that the universe will always return to us. So what is that? The universe will always return to you. It is actual you saying to yourself that you deserve, because the universe is a mirror reflection of how you feel about yourself. So coming back into empowerment of, I support myself in every moment that I carry myself through my life, means that you will always be able to give and take as you like. And it's not anything to do with trying to make yourself look good in front of others by giving, constantly giving. It is to do with you saying, this is what I feel is I need to do at this moment for this person in return of something else, or it just feels right to be able to give that person that, but it has no association with how you feel about yourself. You already feel really good about yourself, and that's more important. Whew, okay, so there's lots coming through at the moment. Self-care, bringing ourselves back into oneness, understanding where we're coming from. This is a whole other perspective compared to what we were taught at schools. Now I'm going to bring in the title. So the title was, that we actually do have the power to, we always had the power to carve a new life, or to create our reality. We just didn't know it. And this is the bit, all of these channel messages are the bits that we just didn't realize, that we just didn't know. But those who were in power kind of knew about these things. And so they played the game of, because they are all coming from their lack of, right? Anything that is needing to overpower, over control others in a massive way has a massive hole within them that they need to fill it up with controlling so many people. And so they ended up bringing it into our reality that we couldn't trust ourselves, and not trusting ourselves, we couldn't trust each other, because all trust comes from self-love and self-trust. And that means that you choose the people that are around you, and you say no to those that are lying or deceiving you, or if it is a good person that was going down the wrong path, you pull them up and say, hey, I love you, but at this moment you're not in your truth and your true value, and that sort of thing. But we weren't taught any of that. We were taught just to be in command, let others demand us to do things, control us to do things. We were taught that we are definitely the victim, that only one person in a massive group can win, that if you had a ribbon tied to the outside of your jacket, then you were the one that was the winner. And yet that person who won that great big award or whatever might feel a massive hole within themselves, because they didn't learn anything. They were just good at what they did in that moment. And so they're still striving to become more, but they're not, they're just putting themselves in a mediocre position, because they're constantly competing in a place that they know they can win anyway. That I'm just bringing myself back to school, when we have those that are really fast runners and those that are really slow runners, and we already know before the races started who's the fast runners and who's the slow runners. So it seems a bit silly to even have the race in the first place, where this game, this adventure, this beautiful life is more to do with expansion of the soul, bringing in, grounding in more of the soul on the separated world, and seeing what we can create and manifest, not just through a physical outside thing, or getting the lesson right and getting an A on our assignments and stuff. It is to do with the true value of how one feels about themselves. And if they, it's interesting how they're bringing this up in my head. But yeah, so we need to then take our power back and understand that we were only taught from a logical point of view of looking outside ourselves for our true value. That can never be. Our true value doesn't come from the outside of ourselves. That is a mere reflection. So true value has to come from how we feel about ourselves. They're also bringing me up to, if they ever wanted to really control somebody, they would pull a very naive person out of the crowd, and they would start to tell them that they are amazing and that they're really good, because they're bringing them up to a standard that they want them to be a high-end actress, singer, somebody of importance in this world. So they make them feel really good, and then that person feels really good, and then if they ended up doing something wrong or against them, they would come down on them a ton of bricks and make them feel really, really small about themselves. Now, just that in itself means that they already have this pulling of the reins and control over us. And this is the reins that we have to take back, so that if they ever come up to us, we're already empowered. We already know our magnificence. They don't need to tell us. Nobody else needs to tell you how magnificent you are. Source energy is you. You are that, and that is magnificent. Just you being here is magnificent. Just you shining your light is magnificent, and being who you are. Hi, Karina. Good to see you. Hey, isn't this magic? Hey, magnificent ones. I like that. Okay. Yeah, so at the moment, humanity is learning to take the reins back to their own consciousness, their own creativity, their own imagination. Our imagination was completely annihilated at school. You'd sit there at school. I can remember sitting there at school and looking out the window and then being told off by my teacher for looking out the window that I wasn't focused in on the lesson. And what was the lesson? Something that regurgitated over and over and over again. And I was so over, it was boring. And I was just like, oh, look outside, it's so beautiful. I mean, you can get way more lessons from nature anyway. Our whole schooling system is going to have to reshift, is going to have to change. Everything is going to need to shift up to include, not to disempower what we've already learned. There's nothing wrong with learning language skills and something outside of ourselves. I don't feel there is. I think that we should be collaborating, and this is what my guides are leading me to, collaborating both sides, so that we can ground more magic in this world. We need to be able to open up our imagination to that magic. We open up things of the folklore before things fell, anything to do with the Atlantis, Lemuria age and all of that sort of stuff. Just as everything was falling, there was still magic on this world with the so-called wizards of the world that knew how to manipulate and manifest the world that they desired, because they knew their true essence and their true power. That's what made them the wizards, or the witches, or whatever you want to call them. And also that true value of opening up the Pandora's box of our imagination to be able to carve a new path stops us from being re-looped back into the cycle of life that keeps us in limitations. And that's what this time is all about. We are, like people like me, as souls like myself, is brought here specifically to awaken you to the fact that we were caught, many humans were caught in a maze, or just keep going around in the same circle, where instead we should be going in a spiral. Our life was caught on the same loop. They show me a maze, and then people getting lost in this maze, and they just can't seem to find themselves out, because they were like a bug that had the left, and I have brought this up before, the left wing injected with, sorry, the right wing. I just went and did that wrong. The right wing, or the right hemisphere, injected with a sleeping tonic. And so what happens if the bug has one side of its wing, one side of itself asleep, it will keep going round and round and round and round in circles, because it can only fly that way. So it gets stuck, and that is easily then controlled into a certain loop that the ones that were in charge of that were already coming from their own lack of, used humanity's consciousness to keep us on the same loop, and then they could use us as slaves and get us caught into mining for gold and mining for different things that they wanted. And then we thought that we were doing it all for ourselves, and they gave us a program of what we should believe in. And then most of that stuff was actually taken off planet. There was a lot that was behind closed doors for humanity's consciousness that's been hidden from us over that period where we lost ourselves. But remember, if we see it from a higher perspective of oneness, it was all meant to happen, so that we could learn true values of the strength of humanity's grounding, being able to ground. Well, look what we grounded. I mean, I take my hat off. Our imagination was shut down. We were pulled into this control mechanism, and yet still over thousands of years we grew slowly grew. In the last couple of 100 years, because we are coming closer to source energy, we really grew. We grew a lot faster and a lot quicker. The pressure that they gave us, the push that they gave against us to control us, ended up making us become aware of our own magnificence that we were lacking, and pulled us into a victim state of mind. Yeah, so much being uncovered here to take the power back of humanity's consciousness. Yeah. And it is time to step back out of that. So many have come here, souls have come here to fall really low within their own self, and probably not as low as many humans have, to be able to find themselves back out of the maze, to be able to go back into the maze, to be able to bring them back out, bring others back out with them, and say, hey, I know the way out, and this is how we can do it. And that's what I feel my life is all about. But those that have fallen extremely far in the in humanity's consciousness have really gone deep into that separated illusion of self-love, and feeling very victim or victimized to their life. They are so strong, and they have learnt so many valuable lessons from that. So when they end up moving out of that maze and look at their story lifeline and all of that, they'll go, wow, look at the strength of me. Look how far I pushed myself to separate myself from oneness. And why is that of value? Because that actually gives oneness new adventures to go on. It literally opens the Pandora box for oneness to ground even more. And so we could have how can I explain that? Sorry, there's something in my head that they're telling me, and I'm like, that's a hard one to explain. So we're in a separated world now, and everything feels like the illusion of separation has brought us to humanity's consciousness to a point where we don't even know that we're God at all, source energy. We don't even know the magnificence of ourselves at all. But that also carved the path of everything being extremely solid and extremely slow in vibration, where we could have this adventure of discovery, self-discovery, or discovery of different cool, fun, like the magic of the world. We could trip up over these magical bits that we forgot about, and we actually forgot about them within ourselves, and they're actually reflected in a material fashion or a material world on this planet through like different portals are showing me time, like circles with symbols on them that they knew in the old age of how to step through into different realities, blocks with doorways and opening up. What the thing is, because we've forgotten all that magic, when we go on an adventure now with our eyes wide open, we can literally move into these places and just rediscover them again. And it's the rediscovering that source energy is like of seeing as true value, because it is such a fun adventure to rediscover oneself after they had lost themselves. So what they're saying is those that have lost themselves, humanity that had lost themselves in that maze over and over and fallen really, really dark and deep, when they rediscover themselves, that adventure in itself is so worthy to source energy. It is extraordinary, and that's why you might have felt like you did something wrong or whatever, but you never did anything wrong. You just went on a more adventurous journey. Because all will return back to love anyway. Everything is love. That is what we are at the core essence of ourselves. So all will return back to love. There is no losing anything. We all come back to this source of self through our own decision to walk this planet loving and knowing our magnificence, that we can shift our story whenever we want, that we can go on an adventure whenever we want, that we don't have to listen to somebody outside of us telling us that we have to do this limited story anymore. We take the leap of faith into the unknown quantity, which is something that we need to rediscover, because the unknown is always something that was known to begin with, and so it is a rediscovering in the end. Wow, it's so full on at the moment what's coming through. Apparently, so Karina says, apparently the light tunnel passing over is a trap to repeat another cycle. So do you have any insight onto this? It isn't, it really isn't to do with, okay, they're telling me that it's more to do with how one feels about oneself when they actually pass, as to whether they'll come back or not. Whether they see a light at the end of the tunnel or a blackness is their decision on what they believe in to be taking them into the next divination or next step of their own reality that they're going to move into. I wouldn't worry about it. It's got more to do with the love of self. Everything else, like, is that outside reflection. Like, we literally imagine a specific event happening, and humanity's consciousness usually has a light at the end of the tunnel. They're showing me source energy that they can go rejoin with, or if they feel that the light is wrong, then they'll probably go into blackness, and then the blackness will show themselves as being nothing and everything at the same time, and then they create a light. Will have to end up coming into that illusion anyway, because if you're in complete blackness and blackness is surrounding you, you have no story, you're just nothing. And so the soul will always want to carve or recreate a new path, and then in that blackness a light will appear eventually. So it really has no bearing on, because this is a duality reality that that source energy has gone on through our consciousness, and we can't seem to see much outside of that duality of nothingness or everything, or light and dark. So they're telling me that it's got more to do with how you feel about yourself, more than what you see in the passing. So they don't want you to fear how it works, how when you let go of the logical mind, what your soul directs you to when you're passing, because your soul will be directing you into different divinations of reality. And that could come as an imagination, like they're bringing me to a movie where Robin Williams was in it, What Dreams May Come, where he ended up in a painting, and then he tried to find his wife. And that painting was what his wife was painting. So that literally can happen. And he also wanted to find his wife who had committed suicide. She was in a dark place. So he felt like he had to go through hell to get there. Interesting too, they bringing me to that, because when they were in hell was coming at them. As soon as he stepped away and said, I don't want to do hell anymore, then hell just went, oh, okay. And no one was really fighting him anymore, because he was stopped fighting with himself. So that's so valuable. And even when we leave this reality, where do we want to go? Where do we want to take our soul? But when we're not in the logical brain or the logical mind, which is held in a program within this reality of becoming solid, it's really interesting what they're trying to give to me. I'm trying to make sense of it, because the solidness is still energy, they're saying. But it is a story that we developed within humanity's consciousness to actually be physically here. Then, yeah, I lost it. Sorry, guys. It was a little bit overwhelming what they were giving to me, but I know I can get that back. Might not be today, though. Sometimes when they give me messages, it's so much that I just have to, get used to it, mull over it. And then my super Virgo analytic brain figures it all out in the end. But they're driving me to a feeling of when we are dead, when we pass over, our soul still resides in the consciousness of love itself. So you feel a lot lighter, and you don't have all of the mind games playing that have been holding you in this limited world. That literally bringing this up because they want us to bring more of the soul through into this world, so that we're letting go of that logical mind crap. And with the release that we have when we leave this world, well, they want that to be part of us walking this planet. So we're actually walking this planet as if we have released ourselves from the logical brain being taking over. Something to do with that as well. Any case, yeah, depends on your frequency. When you do pass over, what you feel about you, and it's not what accolades you could have 1,000 trophies, you could be like the best actress or whatever, and that is a valuable, beautiful thing that you actually acquired that through this and while you were living in this reality. But if that beautiful actress still feels a gaping hole within one's self-worth of I didn't look after my children, and I let that I did a mistake over there and had a car crash, and I still haven't got over it, or so forth and so forth. That can still hold somebody back into re-looping into this life. So a ghost, so to speak, is a soul that doesn't actually know that it's completely died from a physical world, from this physical body. It still holds on to the story, and it will keep reliving that story. And they literally show humanity's consciousness as pretty much equal part to a ghost reliving its story. And that's how we have been reliving our story over and over again, to be controlled by others, feel like we're a victim and that sort of stuff. So if somebody was at an office and they were constantly working 9 to 5 and they didn't have anything else much and their life was really boring, and then they all of a sudden died really quickly, didn't know about it, they would still go to that office and they'd still relive their day up, but things would start to look a bit little weird because they're not physically there anymore. And so the story would start to catch up to the fact that they're just soul going on a journey. So there will be all these openings coming to them to get them out of that story, because they are only soul now and not in the story with the logical mind programming them to be here. I don't know how much of this is actually making sense, but I hope it does. Yeah, I just want to be an open vessel to the truth, and help you guys realize just how much you're missing out on, because there is so much more magnificence to you. We are literally relearning everything about the right hemisphere. We're relearning everything about our souls, our feeling, our imagination, our intuition, and all of those powerful, beautiful feminine traits of ourselves. So magnificent that they bring in magic, they bring in adventure, they bring in the ability to shift your reality out of anything. They bring in so much more power to you. And that in itself means that you start walking the life that you truly, authentically feel you are from a soul's perspective, not just from the program that has been programmed into your mind to believe that you are. And that's all that is a program made to believe you are a certain thing. You are something that you are not. You are smaller than you are not. Why? Because they wanted you to feel smaller than them. And this is all about us taking our power back to say, no, you don't have a bearing on my life anymore. I can shift my life. If I don't like the story coming towards me, I say no to that story. Doesn't matter if it's something that's, a huge thing that's coming from the powers to be that are, really trying to enforce certain laws or anything like that. You can still say, nah, that's not my story. And I'm focusing in on freedom. I'm focusing in on my magic. I'm focusing in on me carving a beautiful, abundant life. My life is going to go that way. And I don't know how exactly, because that's the adventure and that's the fun of it. And yes, there might be some things that go a little squiff through this so that I can see the resistance of where I was lacking in my power. But at least I'm focused on the right direction now. And I'm not focused in on feeling victimized by my outside world, because my inner world is aligning with my soul, and my soul and everything else is gonna reflect out from that. Yeah. So anyway, guys, I love you and leave you here. That was my channel messages for today. Sorry about the reading. My dyslexia kind of kicked in a bit there, but but also dyslexia gives me a different way of viewing the world, which helps you guys. So there's a advantage there as well. So love you and leave you. And yeah, we've got a few things coming up. I actually have a podcast interview coming up with Carl coming up. So that's next Wednesday. So anyway, well, I'll see you when I see you. Bye.